What's up? Normal American Show, daytime edition, because why not? Because I feel like it. Great to see you all today. Hope you're all having a good day. Just a little random show. I don't know how long I'll go today. Talking a little about the insurrection last night. Another one based on the language of the left. This is far more of a clear case of insurrection than anything that they've called that happened on the right was. So we'll talk about some of that. Some conversations I've had with people recently. Talk about some of that as well. Maybe some criticisms that's been levied at me. Discuss, but man, it's great to be here. Snow's still crazy. Still crazy out here. Looking forward to it dying down. My son we were measuring the snow yesterday. So I think we got close to 20 inches. Man, what crazy. So I hope everyone's, I know there's been storms all over. I hope everyone's been safe. I really do. But man, last night I wanted to talk about, I thought I'd do an hour and a half, 2 hour stream. I ended up being till like 6 a.m. Taking calls in from lefties, smacking around. I don't know. What are we doing not living in Florida? What's up, Kurt? Last night, Pisco called in. Whick called in. Destiny's allegedly top moderator on his subreddit called in. Yeah, Joe's a lefty. There you go. Well, thanks for watching, lefty. My son had off school today as well. I would love to talk to Dave Smith about this, about the ongoing situation. So the plan yesterday was going to talk about sort of what we're now being apparently inferred what the rules of engagement are now. What we're allowed to do. And I wanted to talk a little about that, particularly the idea of these whistles. But then, of course, as I was doing the stream last night, the left was getting more and more violent, and law enforcement in Minnesota stood down, leaving 1 or 2 agents to basically fend off a horde that was attacking them, trying to get in to a hotel, no doubt to harm what they thought was law enforcement agents. It was bad. It did not look good. So thought we'd look at some of the footage of that and talk a little about what I was going to talk about yesterday. And then a couple other things that I wanted to address. And the first thing that I think's worth talking about is my fantastic editor, Black Elk, puts up this video from a caller that called in the other day. And that's here. There you can see the video. So I wanted to address some of the criticism that some people, who I appreciate, had to say in that video. And also, apparently some criticism of the lady that called in as well about my tone and being too harsh. So I thought it would be worth addressing this. Let me start by saying, of course, in a time like this where I see so many people that are using violence, and it's a repeat of 2020 where I felt like I was screaming to the heavens and no one was listening about sort of the ongoing attacks of the left. Yeah, I guess it could be a little frustrating on my part. I don't know if I got enough rest. Probably not. I probably should have got more sleep tonight. So maybe it could be that I have a short fuse and I've been harsher than other people would want. And that's absolutely true. That my tone is not correct for everyone. That's true. It's a question with the tone police. It's very similar to the tone policing that it's funny because Rachel features prominently in that video. It's very similar to the tone policing that people give Andrew. And I get it. And I know some of the people that like Andrew will do the same thing in his chat. Oh, I thought he could have been a little more polite when dealing with this nice young lady. I get it. And I understand that that's how some people want me to be. And to be quite fair, I'm a little schizophrenic. That's not the right word, but I'm a little, some days I feel calmer, some days less calm. Yeah, Brittany. Yeah, stick around. Some days I feel calmer, some days less calm. And that's the young lady there. Or Brittany, I don't know her age, but there's the lady there, they called in. I get that. And I don't know what the answer is. Some days I'm like, maybe I should have been calmer in discussing something. Bombastic. Some days I feel I should be more bombastic. How about that? And so to the people in the chat there that I apparently disappointed because they would have liked me to have a calmer conversation. Elbows says that. What I say to you all is, I'm sorry I let you down. And so I slept a little, granted I'm on little sleep, and I had some time to think about it. And I will say that in addition, thank you so much, Elbow. You still love me. Thank you, Brittany, for being here. I'd like to not apologize, but say that I'm doubling down, and I think you two are part of the problem. I'll say it in a more calm way this time. I think you two are the exact reason that we see the left be able to get so many victories. It is you two. And I do not apologize whatsoever. And I wish more people were stronger against you all. If more people were, we would not find ourselves in the position we're in the country now. I do not appreciate your tone policing. I don't appreciate the passive aggressiveness. And I think it shows a sign of weakness as to why it'll be so difficult for us to dig ourselves out of this. Now, I'll say it in a calmer way this time so that you can understand me. First off, Brittany, who's had some things to say in the comments of the chat, she's very receptive to Rachel, which is interesting because Rachel was saying far harsher things about Brittany in the chat before she came on. I believe if you could ask Rachel, it was just that she realized how sad and pathetic Brittany was when she decided to call in, which is why she decided to be a little calmer because it's sort of a good cop, bad cop routine. But I noticed no one had a problem with Rachel's comments that are criticizing my tone. No one had a problem with her comments. Putting in super chats, does your husband know that you have an opinion on this? Didn't have a problem with that. Now, Rachel did do a fantastic job, don't get me wrong. Because chats mean nothing. Well, I agree, as does your commentary. I don't see a reason why the chat would mean less or not as much as when someone calls in. No, it is pathetic. It is. How did we get ourselves in this? I'll just ask the chat in general. I know Brittany doesn't think the chat means anything. Right? I'll ask the chat in general. How did we get into this problem? Because our hearts are too hard or because our hearts are too big? How did we get there? Which one do you think it was? Do you think we're in this position where we have millions upon millions of illegals, where lefties could basically riot with impunity? Is it because our hearts are too big or because our hearts are too hardened? Her recommendation was we need to have bigger hearts. Now, at a time where I'm watching an ICE officer's finger that had been bitten off, when I watched the one-time right-wingers decided to get violent, one of them to be shot in the case of Ashley Babbitt, many of them to have their lives ruined, even those that were engaged in peaceful actions. When I watched the double standard, the lawfare, the attacks, and then the very people on our side are like, I saw this. By the way, Brittany, who admitted she had barely seen the video, she didn't look at what was going on before the video. Her calling in to criticize me, to criticize the idea that we need to have a big heart. That's the problem. Without even having watched the video. It's that sort of impulse that leads to the disastrous situations we're in. Imagine. It was sort of like we were saying the other day on the TikTok siege we did. And yet people, much like Brittany here, tone policing Andrew. As a Christian, should you be that mean to Nala? Should you? Perhaps you shouldn't have been that mean. As we had person after person calling in. And one of the commentary I made there is like, but listen, there are an awful lot of people not being mean. And I think that's led to sort of the status quo. I'm not saying I wouldn't do things exactly like Andrew. It's fine. But what I'm saying is our default position shouldn't be, we need to have a bigger heart versus, why is the left setting up these situations to make these situations inevitable? When Rachel basically makes that point, except, albeit calmer, and that's fine. Her stylistic choice is absolutely fine. I don't have a problem with that. Yes, Brittany agrees. Yes, that totally makes sense. So I'm sorry if my tone wasn't accurate with what people wanted. It has nothing to do with being more like Andrew. I've been quite opinionated. It's not that I'm mad at you or the caller. It's more that I'm disappointed. And I explained this, I thought, all throughout that stream. Not just with that caller. That caller was just the last one that was making this point. Which we had person after person on the right that was saying like, well, we need to step back. We need to evaluate ISIS policies, etc., etc. And I was like, no, we need to double down. We need to triple down. It's the exact opposite. Right? That's what I'm saying. I said it over. Like, I mentioned yesterday, Roman, who's in the chat here. I said, me and Roman are actually the same. That we are part of the problem. Because we're like, well, let's hyper analyze and like ask these questions. I get it. It's in my nature too to ask these. I'm very sympathetic, as I said all throughout that stream, on this person dying. I don't want him to die, but that wasn't enough. One of the comments was, it was regrettable that I didn't leave the young lady a chance to explain herself. Okay, let's see how long she gets a chance to explain herself.
Oh my gosh. Hey, Rob.
Hi.
So I had to call in because first off, everybody thinks I'm Sarah G. I'm guessing that's the tomato girl, whatever. I watch you every day
Thank
and
you.
I do. And I really love you. I try not to comment much, but I guess with the snowstorm, I'm being a little lefty according to your chat. But anyway, with the shooting today, I guess, and I know I probably am a little biased because as a nurse, the situation, seeing a man help another lady, that's what I saw at the beginning of the video. And then when I grabbed him from the back and threw him on the ground, I mean, my first instinct is the man was helping someone, right? I know there's more details to come, but it's just human nature, okay? He was on the sidewalk when it happened. Should he have been there to begin with? Hell no. I wouldn't be there. I wouldn't put myself in that situation. I'm very pro-ICE, but I also want to keep my eyes and ears open to situations where maybe sometimes wrong decisions are made. And I just want to see your take on that. I'm very upset about it. Nonetheless, someone died. I think we are losing a little bit of compassion on the right,
Not enough. Okay, so I think I give her a chance to explain herself. Notice her opinion was he was just trying to help this woman when they attacked him from behind. Is that how you all say it? Do y'all think that's a helpful recollection of what happened? That's how it was. We need to be a little more understanding and compassionate when law enforcement's affecting arrests and people want to interfere because they just have big hearts. We need to be a little more compassionate. Is that not what she's saying? That's what it sounds like she's saying to me. But let's see. Now, I was too harsh. So let's see my reaction to this. I think your compassion is what will ruin us. So.
Well, that's fine, but I just want to say, like, I'm trying to look at it. See, to me, that is so heartless, though, to say your compassion's too much. Like,
see, it's heartless. Me saying that level of compassion will ruin us, that's heartless. Now, do you understand this is completely antithetical to what I'm suggesting happen? You understand? I'm suggesting the problem is right-wingers, centrists, libertarians, etc., that look at this situation, that see that there are intentional situations being set up with violent confrontations with left-wingers and ICE. She looks at one of the people that was directing traffic through an ICE operation, intervening in law enforcement, effectualizing either an arrest or a basically displacement of someone that was harassing them. And her logic here is, but that's heartless. We have to have a bigger heart. I just saw a man trying to protect a woman. And I'm like, I think that will ruin us. I think that sort of mentality will ruin us. Right? So let's continue. I don't think I've been unreasonable or yelling at this point. She says I'm heartless now. So what should we do? Should we deport people who have children that cry? Should we stand back?
Yes.
We should. That's heartless. Man, you're fucking callous. That's callous.
No, okay, but
oh man. No, wait. Now the point I'm trying to make here is this is the exact rationale that's given. We need to have a big heart when it comes to the types of people we deport. If we have to have a big heart, that someone that's literally intervening with law enforcement because they're, quote, protecting a woman, how doesn't that same rationale apply to who we're deporting? Sure. Rob, do you consider it more or less persuasive to the audience when you're rude and bombastic? Or is it just red meat to zealous partisans that watch you anyways? Are you a right-winger or a left-winger? Who'd you vote for? I have a good idea. I have a good idea that you didn't vote for Trump, that you're actually against Trump. And so what this sounds to me is, I'll answer your question. I think it's more effective and more persuasive for my side, for the people that need to hear it, to be bombastic. I think if I was just stoic and displaced, people wouldn't get the need for the passion that we should have on this, and I think less people would watch. That's what I think. I don't believe you. Let's say that's true. I can believe that. I bet you're against the deportations. And this is a tactic that people will use. Right? Oh, come on, let's have a big heart. Let's just be calm. As they riot and beat you and as law enforcement uses lawfare, please be calm. It's the same thing I had people say under COVID. Same thing. I'll play a video here in a bit. I had people just like this saying, Rob, come now. Come now, Rob. Why are you upset about this? Let's just be calm and dispassionate. Okay. And we've done that and no one was held accountable. I'm uninterested in the tone policing. Those of you that share my message and have a different tone, you're welcome to start a channel. I'm sure it will thrive. Good luck to you, especially if you share my message. I hope you do awesome. Maybe you'll be vindicated. Maybe that dispassionate way is the way to be more persuasive. Perfectly cool. Go ahead, start it. Brittany, whatever your guy is first. Please, by all means, I'll cheer you on. I'll raid over to you. Be like, hey, here's someone that's got a very good message. If you love your pickup there. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I hope no one's insulting your picture. You look like a fine, nice person. But I welcome the criticism that says, hey, Rob, perhaps your tone could lead to being more persuasive. Perfectly reasonable. Could be true. That absolutely could be true. I'm uninterested, though, in issues where I think that the exact opposite is the problem. I sincerely believe the fact that we have coddled people and allowed them to interrupt the discussion for so long is what the problem. I think that's literally the problem. So the point that I'm making at this point is, if it is about compassion, etc., she has a point to her claim with me. When you stand before God, you cannot say, but I was told by others to do thus, and that virtue is not convenient at the time. This won't suffice. What virtue am I lacking? How does that statement apply? That'd be the equivalent of say, well, I'm sort of right because do unto others as they would do unto you. And you cite a statement that has nothing to do with anything that's being discussed. I agree. When I stand before God, it won't be enough to say other people told me to do unless you're not talking to me. I didn't call you Sarah Tomato. The point that I'm trying to make is, it's not that I'm saying that I should be able to shirk my personal responsibility in front of God. Now, granted, I'm no biblical scholar, but in the many times that God, for example, someone help me that's more of a scholar. Old Testament, Philistines, God instructed to wipe out the Philistines. Imagine that I receive this message from God, and I'm like, look, we have to harden our hearts and go to war with the Philistines. And the people that claim to be on our side are like, now wait, we need to have a bigger heart. Let's reconsider. They're just trying, Amalekites, they're just trying to protect their women. The Canaanites. There you go. You see the issue? So, Roman, I fail to see what your concern is. Would you have told those people that said, but no, I'm listening to God, the message of God that says we need to go to war and eliminate these people? Would you have said, but when you stand before God, this woman will be right, that you needed to... I just don't know. That's why I don't quote the Bible a lot. But I say this because I'm making a point. We'll just continue a little bit more with this. Do you want me to show you pictures of children crying as their parent? That's heartless. We can't be heartless. We have to have a heart, right?
I know you're being sarcastic, but do you think that's heartless?
And here you have it. See, here's the people. Now, the New Testament means turn the other cheek. My understanding is one reasonable interpretation of turn the other cheek is that the way you got slapped with one hand implied that you were lesser of a person. So turning the other cheek showed that you wouldn't be disrespected like that you would have to be hit in the way. But you can see so many people, I'm not saying their interpretation is correct or incorrect. I'm not saying that, but there is an awful lot of people that use Christianity to say that we're not allowed to stick up for ourselves, allow the abuse to occur over and over against ourselves. Turn the other cheek. We can't do the deportations. We have to turn the other cheek. We have to be compassionate. Love thy neighbor. Let them all in. So, anyways, we'll keep going.
I mean, I'm gonna ask you. Do you?
No, I don't think. Here's what I think.
I don't either.
When someone like you is like, I'm looking to nitpick and try to find when I think ICE is being too.
Nitpicking when you see somebody literally pulling off of. I guess I just need to see more of what happened that led to that.
Now, at this point, have I been too rude? Is it been too rude yet? I'm trying to explain to her, like, no, I think the fundamentally you're looking at it the wrong way. You're saying we need to be more compassionate. I think that will ruin us, particularly in this case, This wasn't just a matter of, a noble man trying to protect a woman. There was more to it than that. And it sounds like she's getting a little more excitable than me at this point. But nonetheless.
That moment. And I have not seen that yet.
I don't think that the answer, I think when we simultaneously need to say it's time to kick people out, to then come in and say, but we need to have a bigger heart, is the complete antithetical message we need.
No.
Does that mean that I can't say I don't want to see people die? No. People that willfully show up and arm themselves and then fight with law enforcement, I don't want to see them die either. I understand that it may. Yes, he was. Yes, he violated USC 111. He was fighting with law enforcement. And the first thing he did was try, as ICE was on the road trying to carry out operations, he was waving vehicles through them as ICE was trying to prevent vehicles to come, thereby endangering the officers. Secondly, he then proceeded to interfere as ICE was trying to apprehend or deal with another person that was doing similar things. And he intervened with them. Then he started pushing back. Why don't you go outside and start shoving officers in the same way he did? Try it with your local police and see what happens. Have I been too harsh yet? Was that too harsh? No, we're not going to go through any more. Eventually, my tone does pick up, but I think I'm making the point quite clear. I'm not saying you can't have a big heart for someone that died. I didn't want them to die. He interfered. With them dealing with person that they lawfully had the right to apprehend or push. They were trying to deal with that woman. He got in the way, interfered. He put his hands on law enforcement. Law enforcement doesn't have the time. Anytime that they see you interfering with them, lawfully applying force to someone, they have to assume that you're obstructing because you are, which is a crime in its own right. That's true. I do eventually make accusations of you being on the left. After you called me heartless. That's true. The behavior you're instituting, if you're not on the left, fine. So maybe I should have said, you're behaving in ways exactly as a person on the left would. How's that? Is that better? Anyways, I don't wish any will to Suzanne or Elbows or anyone else that truly is like, look, I'm in general want deportations, but I think ICE is too aggressive. I don't wish harm upon you. I merely make the point that I think you're weak and you are the reason that we find ourselves in this difficult position. A huge portion of the country is on the left and they don't want the deportations. More people want the deportations, but one of the big reasons we won't get them from pressuring politicians to do it is because the people that say we need to have more compassion, etc. That's the reason. And so I'm trying to push back and make that point. That's the argument that I'm trying to use. Not, did I say Susan? Wrong name. I'm sorry. I didn't mean Suzanne. I meant Brittany. I'm so sorry. I was reading names in the chat. That's all. I think I slept like 3 hours. Sorry, Suzanne. Catching strays for no reason. I'm so sorry. But I don't wish, it's not that I'm mad. As far as defending online pros, you sound like the exact same sort of people, as I said, that was tone policing Andrew. It's perfectly polite. Why is this an issue? There you have it. Now, the reason I cover this today is because there are people that yes, by sound, I mean not the tone of your voice. The rhetoric and the arguments you're making are akin to those that defend we need to be more polite. People like Andrew is too harsh against OnlyFans girls. That's what it sounds like. I don't mean the tone of your voice. But the reason I bring this up is because people I respect actually are critical of me on this. And first off, I completely agree, and I'm not even saying you're wrong. You may have an objective point, I just don't know, to say, Rob, if you played out being dispassionate and calm in every interaction you have, you would end up with a bigger audience and could possibly influence more people. I tend to disagree. I think that probably that's the type of performance that wouldn't get a decent amount of people watching. I could be wrong. But that's my guess. If you say, but you could adjust that from issue to issue, fully admit that there are times that I'll objectively have a tone that wouldn't be optimal for the situation. Hell, I'll go even further than that. I may even have substance that's not correct, let alone optimal for situation. But certainly with the tone, I agree. I fully will concede that if the metric is objectiveness, and the objective persuasion ability to the maximum amount of people, I'll agree that there are times that my tone may be off from time to time. However, I think if I don't be myself, then in an attempt to keep the tone that some of you want, I think that it would actually make me less sincere than I actually am. That's what I think. But I think on this specific topic, the tone meets with the argument that I'm talking about, which is at this critical moment, just like in 2020, at this critical moment, we see a bunch of people on our side that claim that they want deportations backing down at a critical juncture. That's what I see. When I see person after person saying, well, you know, I don't like some of these tactics of ICE, and we need to look at that, and maybe it's time to pull back. Like someone I respect, like Dave Smith. I like Dave Smith. I'll tell Dave Smith, or I just say, so be harsher than I was with Brittany. Dave Smith claims he wants the deportations, but says that the tactics are authoritarian and we need to pull back. Then at the same time, he criticizes Trump for not having enough deportations. What are we supposed to do? If you don't start from the realization the left is intentionally setting up violent confrontations with ICE, and understanding that no matter how much you want each ICE officer to be perfect and to do the exact right thing, their tone to be correct per se, it's not going to happen. That's not the way the world works. Any law enforcement agency in the world, if you intentionally set up obstruction and violent confrontations hundreds upon hundreds of times, inevitably there will be a violent reaction from law enforcement. Most of the time that reaction will be justified. Sometimes it may not be. I've been predicting this for years. In Trump's second term, I talked exactly about expect this. This is what the left wants. This is what's going to occur. And I said, what'll happen when it happens, no matter if it's right or wrong on ICE's part or law enforcement's part, the left's going to run with it. Michael Brown, didn't matter that objectively they were wrong about hands up, don't shoot. He was attacking and trying to get the gun of the law. Didn't matter. They used it for their propaganda. And what did I see? People on the right that otherwise would have been on my side saying, perhaps law enforcement did go too far here. Let's parse this with a fine-tooth comb. And inevitably, you'll get a shooting that may be bad. And I said, what you'll have is it will be an effective propaganda tool for the left, because you will see people on our side that all of a sudden will lose their stomach. And I said from the get-go of the election of Trump, I do not think America has the stomach for these deportations, because the first time they see something tragic, they see a person that fights back against law enforcement and gets harmed. They see a child sobbing as their illegal parent is taken away. The first time that happens, there will be a lot of people on our side that will give in and say, we need to be compassionate. We can't do this. That's what I said. Now, what do we see? Exactly that occur. Exactly. predictably, as I predicted, they set up the situation. As I predicted, there were many violent interactions. As I predicted, most of the people that you see that are very compassionate about this particular shooting, which absolutely they have the right to be, said next to nothing or very little when we saw ICE being attacked over and over again. They don't focus on the fact that these have been set up, and instead they talk about the need to have more compassion. That's it. So I think the tone of me being exacerbated, as I've predicted that, goes along with the argument, the substance, which is, no, we need to stop tiptoeing and walking on eggshells and worrying about, this has to be done with maximum compassion. Particularly when the whole thrust of what I said every day since this shooting, and for that matter, the Renee Good, is I feel terrible that this person was killed. I do. I actually feel really bad about that. And I went through painstakingly and looked at the video, which an astute person could say, Rob, isn't that sort of doing exactly what you're criticizing? Yes, which is why I told Roman yesterday. And in effect, I'm committing the same sort of unstrategic blunder that I think that other people are. That's true. But I'm trying to say it's time to harden our hearts. It is. I'm sorry. We can't give in to left-wing domestic terrorism. We can't. That's what I'm trying to say. And for that, the people that watch me and say, but Rob, your tone needs to be better when you're dealing with people that you think are making that fundamental mistake, you may be right. I welcome the criticism, but I just wanted to give you my perspective as to why I'm not going to apologize for that. And I still think that the people, as much as I don't dislike them or hate them, like Brittany, I still think that they are a part of the problem. And I think until they realize that they are part of the problem, that we're not going to be able to advance where we need to as a country. That's what I think. So I didn't bring this up. By the way, then, Brittany was, I can't believe that Rob attacked me and stuff in the comments. That's fine. You could say that. Yes, if anything, the vehement arguments I've had against repealing the 19th, I start to question. But that's sort of where I was. So I wanted to bring that up to just let people know where I'm coming from. So I welcome people to have a better tone and to start a channel and articulate in a calm, dispassionate way and reach millions of people and help change this country in a better direction. I'll be your biggest supporter. I really will. All right, let's read some super chats. We'll move on to the next portion of the show. Barry, thanks so much, man. $5 says, yo, what up, Rob? Not much. Tiffany, $5. Thank you. Says, this is exactly what people like the woman caller didn't understand the other day. The protesters now double, triple down while our government backs down. And for example, last night in the show, we talked to Whick, who is on his show, saying that morally now, the only thing you could do as a Christian and as an American is to obstruct ICE and get arrested. You see? You see where the rhetoric leads? Barry, $5 says, we have a hyper-friendly Protestant political party against an enemy that wants us dead. Yep. And if we adapt that mentality, we will lose. That's my opinion. Tiffany, $5 says, I personally want my right to vote stripped. Then I can leave it all up to the men, and I don't have to pay attention to any of it. It's a take. Christian, thanks so much. $5 says, Rob, your streaming output's insane. Do you sleep? We're here for you. Yes, I'd love to edit videos. Thank you, man. As I said, I already have a fantastic editor, but thank you. I really appreciate it. Mr. B, $20 says, I'm not even saying this because I'm a loyal viewer, but you've had the best coverage and takes in this Minneapolis fraud ICE fiasco, and it's not even close. Never let the left gaslight you, not one step back. Thank you. I really appreciate it. We talking about women. $5 says, Rob, you better watch that tone, or the tone Mossad's going to call you out and take you out, man. And Tiffany, $5 says, Monday quarterbacking all around. We're talking about split-second decision. It's not heartless that the man put multiple people's lives in danger. Mr. B, $20. Thank you, man. I'm very non-conspiratorial, but across all the huge platforms like X, YouTube, and Rumble, I've been seeing a huge influx of centrists and conservatives that came to the logical conclusion of let the left win, masqueraded as moral acumen. It's exactly where I'm coming from. And so when I have callers call in and say, well, I'm a right-winger, but... You see where I'm coming from? Left-handed assassin, thank you so much for the $5. It's Jacob Official. $5 says, just be authentic, Rob. I'm trying. Triple X says, you know what's unalive more U.S. citizens than ICE? The illegals, correct? And John Locke was wrong. $5 says, they're attacking churches, and if the right still close the Bible, forgetting about standing up for Jesus. Yep. Quote the Bible, yep. Sing a song and give you a real tone. Is there not fraud in every state? Why is there not fiasco in every state, and there's only reporting in Minnesota to take Walz out of the 2028 and to smear African migrants? It's a hot take. We're finding billions of dollars of fraud in Somalian communities, and this guy's like, hey, we shouldn't focus on that. Surely there's fraud in other states. I agree, we should focus on other states. However, the fraud rampant in the Somali community is stark, and once more we see people that want to rely on your passion, your compassion, to say, please, 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 don't shine that microscope on the biggest amount of fraud that we've ever been able to confirm in this country. You see? And this is an argument that's made routinely. Why send ICE to Minnesota? Let us have our sanctuary city. I don't know. Why'd Obama say that the red state of Texas couldn't enforce their border? He went to court, won the argument in Supreme Court. What's up, War? How you guys doing? I don't remember the left flipping out there. Why is Obama doing this? Why is he interfering with Texas? Why doesn't he just leave Texas a force support? Of course, they were all for it. It's always let them alone when it's looking at Democrat area corruption. But when it's right-wing corruption, my goodness, biggest task force in histories. 3 a.m. raids while CNN's tipped off. Right? Huge, huge investigative efforts into. I mean, we were just looking at Jack Smith's investigation the other day. They literally, 16 days after Kevin McCarthy's made Speaker of the House, they're basically like gathering up all of his records, spying on all of his records. And the same people that sat back silently while Republicans in the Senate, many of them were spied upon like this, are like, hey, but come on, let's not investigate Minnesota fraud too much. Let's not do that too much. Shouldn't we put our resources in other states as well? The fraud in Minnesota, the things that make it stark are, one, because it is at a flashpoint of this immigration thing. And we're talking about cultures that are coming in that are vastly different than our own, these Somalians that are coming in, that we could already see from the numbers. Many of them are a drain on our system. 78% of Somalia-headed households are on some form of welfare. That are getting special programs where they receive millions upon millions of dollars to start up businesses, something that most American citizens don't get to take advantage of, either because they're not eligible or they're unaware. And then we see rampant amounts of fraud. And we see that it was blatant. And we see that the media and etc., politicians almost did nothing despite the fact that it was so blatant. So then to say, well, wait a minute, why focus so much on Minnesota is laughable. It's absolutely laughable. It is transparency and transparently an excuse to be like, come on. Cut him a break. Cut him a break. I'm unimpressed to hear left-wingers say, wait, could it be that we're investigating these frauds too much? I'm uninterested, unpersuaded by the argument. The potato, $10, thanks, says I'm working on building that calm, cool platform. If anyone would seem interested in being part of the discussion. Sorry, this is a seamless plug. I like your show and you help inspire me. Please, no problem. Plugs welcome. Thanks, man. Triple X, $5, says in the VA government, the Virginia government wants more taxes. Well, we watch Minnesota, taxes go to Somalians. Yeah. And Kane for $5 says repeal the 19th. Since we gave power, all policy procedures have been approved by the most sensitive and selfish people and how they feel about it. So I wanted to talk a little about the tactics that we see from ICE before we get in, or we see from the anti-ICE protesters. I'm basically being told that what we see on the left is an exercise of legitimate power. Now, I could go into this over and over, but I want to talk about one thing, which is the whistles. Now, I don't know psychologically what or what the physical effects of having shrill whistles being blown right into your ear is. But my guess is that there are significant effects that occur. And this is something that you've seen the left do, and they know this, and it's an effective tool that they use for years and years and years. They use sound amplification devices to scream loud sounds in your ear. For example, they do this if you're a right-winger that's trying to speak on a college campus. They'll do this. They'll do this to law enforcement, like you see these whistles over and over again, right in their ears. Now, what we're being told is this is perfectly legitimate. And so I just want to be clear. If right-wingers decide to start signal chats and target left-wingers or target law enforcement that they feel comes from left-wingers and follow them all around their lives and constantly blow whistles in their ear, no lefty is going to be upset, right? They would say perfectly reasonable. That's your protected right to do so, correct? That's what they would say, yes? Because if you could do it to law enforcement, certainly you could do it to a civilian. I just want to be clear. That's the standard that's being set, correct? Yeah, triple X between 1 and 1 million. Yeah, that's what Whick said. Aaron was set off against a reporter a while back. The person was charged with assault. But I just want to be clear because, yeah, I know loud noise harassment's what the CIA does. So I don't know much about this, but I know an example of law enforcement going too far that basically the left cheered on was Waco. And I know I remember reading about this. One of the things they did at Waco was at night, they would play very loud music, or what they would play is sounds of animals being butchered, like squeals of like rabbits and things like that, because the sound was supposed to basically drive people crazy. So I knew that like our military and our intelligence has used like loud sounds to disorient. Now, I'm not saying that the fact that someone's blowing a whistle justifies you just turning around and popping them if you're law enforcement. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying what happens is we set this situation up where ICE is constantly under attack. They're constantly monitored, constantly attacked. Like you see video after video of the vehicles following them, obstructing them, circling them, screaming at them, blowing whistles. It's making the likelihood that they do something that they shouldn't increase. Has anyone ever been around a screaming baby? I'm ashamed to admit this. I love my son dearly. Dearly love him. More than anything in the world. Him and my wife. pretty much equally. There were times as a baby and even as a toddler, he would be screaming so loud that I had to check myself because I just wanted to be like, shut the fuck up! Just shut up! And I would never yell at my son that way. But I had to check myself because I felt it in my body. I felt it. And I had to take a step back and be like, what am I doing? Calm down. Calm down. And there's no one I'll ever love more than him and her. And I still felt that way. Imagine being law enforcement, being constantly harassed over and over and over again. Constantly harassed. You're trying to do your job. Constantly you have these people blowing these whistles. Imagine it. And yet, that's what we're told is the normal, that we should be allowed to do this. Let me see if I could find footage of also, if my computer crashes when I'm playing videos, it's getting worse. It crashed twice yesterday. I do apologize for that. So my man GG sent me, by the way, if you're on Discord and you message me, if you have videos and stuff, a lot of times it's easy. I'm so happy that like GG sent me these videos because I keep going back to it. Now, I have to be careful here. This isn't a good one. How about this? Instead of showing this video, just to be safe, I'll just play the sound. Does that work for you all? Because that's what I'm talking about anyways. Listen to this. Could you all hear that? I hope you guys could hear that. I think I set it up that way. What do you think's likely to happen when you have people, and if you go and you watch, she's literally, in fact, she's literally right in his, like within 2 to 3 feet of the officer doing that, in addition to all these other people honking the horns, blowing the, right? Let me go to my friend Syrian. Somewhere. He had this up last night. I missed this. I hope. Now, here you'll see clearly it looks pretty evident that Mr. Breddy puts his hands on law enforcement. But for the purposes of this, I want you to watch this and watch. That's her blowing the whistle. You see her hand go to her mouth? So not only was she previously right there blowing the whistle in this guy's ear, Whick last night. Now, granted, in real time, especially with the computer issues I was having, it was hard to find the evidence that one, he put his hands on law enforcement, which he did there, and second, that she was blowing the whistle at that time. Surian, also to his credit, I believe it was him later, would show the following. I can't thank Surian enough. He's always a good supporter of mine. Surian says, by the way, she's clearly blowing the whistle at the officer as she's being shoved. And this person says, that's annoying, but completely legal. And he links this. Blowing whistles to alert others to U.S. immigration is generally considered protected speech. However, this action becomes illegal if it crosses into physical obstruction, hindering or preventing arrest. Physically blocking agents touching them or using noise to directly prevent an arrest could be interpreted as obstructing justice, which is illegal. No. He put his arms before he got pepper sprayed. First off, it wouldn't matter if he touched law enforcement or not for him to be obstructing. It is obstruction for you to intervene between police apprehending someone or potentially apprehending. Secondly, his arm goes to them before he was pepper sprayed. Here you see in this footage from Ofucks, another good supporter. Watch closely. We'll slow it down for you, half speed. There he is. He puts his arm on him there. See, he's touching him. Then he gets sprayed. So it is not that he put his hands on him after he sprayed. Now, after the spray, by the way, I don't know if this will show this, but we'll play a little of it. Oh, no, it's just... See, look. He's attempting right there to get right there as she is obstructing and blowing the whistle right in his ear. And the law enforcement officer, whose ear's probably hurt and it's being obstructed, he's going to push her away, which he's lawfully allowed to do. He's trying to intervene to prevent that right here. You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't. The officer is not assaulting the woman. It is within an officer's right to use physical aggression against someone who is actively obstructing. Is it also assault when an officer handcuffs someone? Is that assault? Yes, it is considered obstruction from the evidence that I just showed if the noise is deemed to attempt to obstruct. And I believe the law and court cases have shown that high levels of volume directly in someone can itself be considered an act of aggression and violence. There was an immigrant. That's what they were dealing with. So the beginning of the video before that shows them dealing with someone that they have stopped in a car. And what happened is now we know there was a signal chat. Fox News is reporting this, that even before the shooting was sending people to this site. They were trying to prevent ICE from carrying out their work. So she's right in the officer's ear blowing this whistle as other people surrounding her blowing the whistle. And Preddy is in the road as officers have blocked off the road so they could carry out their agenda, moving cars forward. Another thing that's a crime and that you can't do. Don't believe me? The next time that law enforcement has the road blocked up for some reason, you walk in the middle of the street and start telling cars they could come. Law enforcement's going to stop you right quick because you're putting themselves and others in danger. But that's what this guy was doing. I didn't say there was an immigrant in that picture. Why do you think they were there? It was just, if your argument is they weren't even stopping or doing anything with ICE affecting law enforcement, that they just saw members of ICE and decided to harass them like that, that's even worse. It's clear that this altercation was provoked by them trying to impede ICE from doing their job. He pushes her away once, she starts coming to him, and he's trying to get her off the road, which he's allowed to do, and away from the people affecting this, and she comes at him again, once more blowing the whistle, advancing towards him, which he pushes her back. Then this man intervenes. So, not knowing what's going to happen and seeing that we could not only see from other law enforcement actions, but these ICE riots that we've seen recently, that they will attack police or in danger of attacking police. In addition, as I said yesterday, this man was intervening and putting his arms on law enforcement while he was armed. Now, that doesn't mean that he doesn't have the right to carry. Of course he does, and anyone suggesting otherwise is wrong. However, you have to understand, if you are obstructing law enforcement, a crime, getting yourself in their face as they're it doesn't matter if you think it's lawful or unlawful, that you have significantly escalated the chance of a continuum of force being increased. Once you start shoving police or putting hands on police that are trying to carry out their duties, and a scuffle ensues and they see you have a gun, bad things could happen, even if it's illegal. Even if what ICE did was wrong, you have to have more common sense than that. You talking about it's an unjustified shooting is irrelevant to what we're talking about right here. Also, to defend the left a little here, though much to my chagrin, the fact that he had 2 magazines and no ID, I don't give a shit the idea that, well, he technically had to have an ID. I don't think that that impugns what he was attempting to do, nor does having 2 magazines. I know plenty of people that conceal carry and carry multiple magazines. I don't think that. I agree they shouldn't be there. And the libertarian's even worse. You're the exact type of person that I was criticizing here. He certainly shouldn't have interfered. So what I'm saying is, given that the standard seems to be, the left seems to be suggesting, and apparently libertarians, that you could just take these loud whistles and go up to law enforcement right in their ear and blow whistles, and they're not allowed to react. And presumably, if you could do it to law enforcement, there's no reason that you can't do that to general members of the public. And no force should be applied to you, including arrest. Correct? That seems to be the argument. Isn't that what we're saying the standard is now? Furthermore, could I start a signal group? Let's say that there was a particular left-winger that I didn't like. Let's say a politician. Let's say Chuck Schumer. Is it lawful for me to start a signal group to let groups of thousands of people know where he's at all times, and to have our group constantly surrounding him, blowing screeching whistles in his ear? Perfectly fine, right? Law enforcement, that's protected speech, correct? Well, Daniel, yes, or Daniel, yes, he did break the law technically. Yeah, sure. But that's not, it doesn't affect my thought on the shooting or anything of that nature. So I just want to be clear that that's the new standard, correct? Can we now break into churches? Are we allowed to do that? For example, if I want to go into a synagogue or a mosque and say that it's a house of the devil and start screaming and preventing people's egress and shouting at children, is that allowed? Am I allowed to do that? Are right wingers allowed to do that? There you have it from the libertarians. There you see their reasonable nature. Shooting unarmed Americans, standard Rob wants to live under. Show me once where I ever said that. Go ahead. But if you want to play that game and make implications, the standard you want to live under is this: that law enforcement should never be allowed to react against violent rioters, and that we should always back down to the left wing getting violent. That's the standard you want. Show me where I said that. Show me where I said the words, I want police to shoot unarmed people. That's the standard I want to live under. Go ahead. G Nice, what he wants is, what he's saying, let's assume, take him face value as a libertarian. What he wants is, yeah, maybe I want borders, etc., but I don't want to enforce them. As soon as the left engages in violence, we say, whoa, no. He wants a world where they're allowed to go up and blow whistles in people's ears. That's what he wants. He wants that world. Now, it's not all libertarians, but so many of them are showing themselves to be absolutely foolish here. Yeah, Ice Agent got the tip of his finger bitten off. Standard being set by the left is, right, we could take to the street and use all of these tactics and use obstruction of justice as long as we think a law that's being affected is immoral, right? Ben's clearly a troll if you can't see. I'll help you. See you, Ben. So that's the new standard set, right? Why wouldn't January 6th be legitimate? Is it just because they went into a building? Is that the only reason? You can't do that? Is that the argument? If, for example, members of the Senate were outside and they were advancing upon members of the Senate outside, would that be legitimate then? Blowing whistles in police ears, etc., You're not further right than me. You're further right than me that wants open borders or wants us not to be able to affect open borders as left-wingers continue to set up violent altercations with law enforcement. That doesn't make you further right. That makes you, regardless of what you want to call yourself, that it is an inevitable left-wing victory. There you go. It's Dave Smith. I'm against open borders, and I would like to see them enforced until the left uses violence, and then we must stop. Then it's too much. It's too much. When the left is intentionally setting up over and over and over again violent altercations, I'll say it's too much. It's too much. You're a bootlicker. You're a bootlicker if you want law enforcement to continue to use this, if it means violence being enacted. That's it. That's the left, or that's the libertarians in a nutshell. There they are. Like Dave Smith said, on one hand, oh my goodness, it's time to pull back. We can't have these. This is too much. Yeah, see? Exactly. He acknowledges. That's it. He acknowledges fully. I want borders enforced, but if the left chooses to engage in violence, I think it's authoritarian for law enforcement to go after them. He says exactly. Yes, exactly. There you have it. Dave Smith said this. He wants us to back down now to give in to the left-wing terrorism. Then he also criticizes and says, by the way, Trump's not doing enough deportations. Yes, I know. A clown. But I can't help myself. And it's important to see the other perspectives that are damaging. The libertarian perspective is one that needs dealt with. And this sets the other thing. The standard is just use violence. If you think a law is immoral, obstruct, use violence. And if law enforcement goes, in the words of the left, insurrect, this is an insurrection according to their definition. And when law enforcement reacts against you, they're too violent. It's their fault. Thank you to all of you. Ben Loinder, I'm so sorry. I always pronounce you. Lonentier, thank you so much for your support over on Rumble. Mr. Scott Awesome. I haven't been to Charleroi yet, no. Byron, $5 over on Rumble says, just dropping another book recommendation. Rob, Magic Terror by Peter Straub. Mind-bendingly well-written stuff. If people actually read more, maybe they'd be quit fooling foolish like Minnesotans. And then JLT for $5 says, hey, Rob, stay safe. Thank you. Some more super chats over here on YouTube. Nate the Eagle, $10 says, Trump's failure to invoke the Insurrection Act is why I was nervous about a second term. Afraid public opinion when the left has already made up their minds. God protect ICE and law enforcement. Yes, I totally agree. Trump is being weak in the face of this. Are you sending Tom Homan? Maybe that's a good sign that they'll get more aggressive. They should. St. Isaiah, thanks so much. $5 says, Rob speaks truth. Speaking truth in a world that tries to obfuscate it, whether harsh or not, is true compassion. Get your head out of the sand. Thank you. Mushmouth Joe, $5 says, I think we should just ignore the squeamish. My compassion was assassinated along with Charlie. I no longer care whether or not they approve. My saw operator, $10 says, I've only been in riot control 3 times, but I know 2 guys who have legitimate damage from Atlanta, and it was just whistles and microphones. It's done to hurt and harass as much as it is to notify. Exactly. Wicked Wally, $5 says, don't worry, Rob. After we work on that tone of yours, we'll work on the harmonies, your pitch, and then you'll be a rock star in no time. That's what this is about. Of course. Thanks, Holly. Tiffany, $5 says, unpopular opinion. Actions have consequences. Maybe allow officers to do their jobs. Hold your construction paper signs up on the sidewalk. Simple. And left-handed assassin for $5. Thank you, man. Always appreciate it. And so the logical extrapolation is of what happens is what we saw last night. Let's look at some of these videos. January 6th, people receive lengthy sentences for damaging inside the Capitol. Here's damage that we see last night from what they assume are federal vehicles. Notice it says ICE spray painted on. Very peaceful. This is them outside where a hotel where they think ICE is. Shooting fireworks inside a window, which could reasonably cause a fire. Intentionally causing noise, etc. Blocking traffic. Law enforcement just allows it to go on. Here's the hotel they think ICE is in. as there were attacks ongoing, sorry. You see these two Chads, particularly this one, standing alone against the mob. Notice the blood covering his hand.
Looks like this officer's bleeding.
True hero. That'll just be demonized with everyone else. Don't worry, they want to unmask him and find out where his family lives as well. Here you have one second. Here you see, I believe it's that same officer, and you're going to see someone throw a brick at his head. Don't worry, though. Minneapolis sent the police. Here you go. Here's the police rushing to the scene. There you have it. And turning around to let these handful of officers fight back against the violent mob. Now, we know that there are signal chats that are being set up to direct all of this. Fox News has reported it. There's all sorts of accusations of who's on there. People connected to government, etc. I won't get into that now. We'll see what's proven. Here's Data Republican, talks about this. Signalgate donors list available for download. Politicians and foreign leadership confirmed. One of the files revealed by Cam Higbee, a resources file, directs people with money to a website, Stand With Minnesota, which in turn directs donors to a campaign ran by Tending the Soil on Chuffed. More about Tending the Soil later. What to know? The campaign is hosted by Chuffed, and the first donation came from Johnny Sapotiak, a Canada-based community organizer who's part of Chuffed leadership and specializes in fundraising. He's most likely a central figure in raising money, starting to look like foreigners are playing a key role in the funding of this. 4,000 donors thus far. The Signal group is people that are setting up camps. We talked about this the other day. So they have camps where they've broken it up in a same way that an insurgency would do. So it's very sophisticated. They have lieutenants, they have people underneath them, they have roles. They've broken up the city into several sectors. Each sector has their own private encrypted signal chat on there. They are doing things like saying when they see ICE, directing certain people, certain shift changes, etc., to go monitor ICE, which then's interfering with them. And in addition, they have access for police technology to run license plates to see who owns them. So, for example, we could see that Cam Higbee and James O'Keefe were both being able to be spotted in real time. And then James O'Keefe was getting messages with his license plate number and that he was going to be killed if he didn't leave within an hour. Here we have 0 Hour, who's been tremendous on this, says they have illegally captured 5,000 license plates in the Signal group. Someone connected directly to Tim Walz or law enforcement. Uh-oh, that's a no-no. Kim Higbee also found that they literally have training manuals that they're giving out on how to deal with ICE. Now, there's all sorts of allegations. Here's the training manual that you could get on the Signal chat. King AB says, here's the training manual for the patrols. This is just the watered down OPSEC version that they're showing, but here you can see. Let's go back to where it says whistles. Congrats, you're now whistle trained. ICE encounters. Request a plate check in the live call-in. Dispatcher plate checkers will confirm. Commute behind a safe distance. Don't interfere or block. Give updates on location. Give as much info as you can when stopped ICE agents leave the vehicle. Dispatch will request a salute alert. When they're out of their vehicles, honk, whistle, alert bystanders with La Migra. In other words, try to obstruct, try to not leave them do their job. Passengers should be filming and dictating the video exactly what's happening. If you're confronted by ICE, do not open your doors or window. Calmly state, I'm observing and recording. I'm not interfering. If threatened with arrest, ask, do not argue. After a confrontation, take a break. Now we see the results of this. They're literally stopping people on the street. Are you ICE? Are you ICE? Asking for papers, ironically. Attacking people. Brian Cranston admits that he's on the ICE chat. We'll get to it in a second. One second. I'll find that for you. Mario Narfall, some of the names that are coming up, and we'll see if they're confirmed. Aaron Chowdhury, Minnesota City Council member, has been linked to the top of the anti-ICE signal chat group. There's a bunch of other names. Flanagan, who's like the lieutenant governor. There's accusations. Here's Fox News reporting, the only mainstream outlet I'm aware of that's done so. Radical Network, a coordinated web of encrypted chats, street alerts, and tracking of ICE abductors in a sophisticated database reviewed by the Fox News Digital, shows that agitators were already mobilized at the scene when 37-year-old Alex Preddy was killed minutes before shots were fired. They're doing just like Whick suggested last night. Go there, break the law, obstruct them, and you see the predictable results. Here's Brian Krasenstein. Says, yes, it's true. I'm in the Signal group chat. Cry more, MAGA. Keep using your speech to organize against people that are breaking the law and a government that is turned against its people. We must fight back. We must stand strong. We must continue to organize. Don't let them intimidate you. There's nothing illegal about it. Now, I remember when people that weren't even at January 6th were arrested because of a conspiracy to insurrect. Remember that? That's enough. Wasn't anything to that level. Specifically, people specifically saying, yes, yes, go insurrect. Go obstruct law enforcement. This is on a daily basis. Did I say Brian Cranston? Brian Krasenstein, yeah. Now, has Tim Walz came out today and talked about the attack on the hotel last night? Did he talk about the attack that led to the officer getting his finger bit off? Let's see. I don't know. I haven't checked since I started streaming. Here he is from an hour ago. Love to nurses today. Damn proud of Minnesota. Here's them handing out chocolate, coffee, and donuts to the people that are going to be insurrecting on a daily basis, according to their language. Provide an update in the shooting. Can you show me where he's condemned the left-wing violence? I saw him say things like, we're at war with ICE. I have seen him say, be peaceful. But the left made the comment that because for a 2-hour riot, because Trump just said be peaceful and didn't specifically condemn violence, that meant he was involved in the insurrection. And yet day after day after day after day after day, we see left-wing violence. And no one's saying, this violence that we just saw has to stop. In fact, to the contrary, it seems like law enforcement is specifically not going to prevent the violence. Remember, we had the 911 dispatch call from Chicago, where it seemed that law enforcement in Chicago was instructed to not intervene to help ICE as they were being boxed in with vehicles illegally. I don't believe there was any accusation that Trump ever told law enforcement to not intervene on January 6th. They said he was merely guilty for not saying they had to intervene and sending more. Part of the truth, you can see they're sophisticated. They have a network of people set up. And listen, it's like this from the bottom on up to the top. These people, you don't think these thousands of people aren't going to make up a jury pool if someone gets arrested? How do you think they'll vote to someone who's engaged in violence? You think they're going to vote, oh, if he was legitimately guilty of the vote? Do you think? We've seen journalists that are supposedly on these signal chats. Apparently politicians. But you do have to give it to the left. The truth is, I saw someone put it this way. This is a great way to put it. Of all the talk that we always heard the right talking about the Second Amendment, the irony is it's going to be the left. They are more dedicated. They just are. They are. It means more to them. It's just true. Eric Schwalm, who's a retired Green Beret, says the following. As a former Special Forces warrant officer with multiple rotations running counterinsurgency ops, both hunting insurgents and trying to separate them from sympathetic populations, I've seen organized resistance up close. From Ambar to Helmand, the pattern is familiar. Spotters, cutouts, dead drops or modern equivalents, disciplined comms, role specialization, and willingness to absorb casualties while bleeding the stronger force slowly. What's unfolding in Minneapolis isn't about protest. It's low-level insurgency infrastructure, built by people who've clearly studied the playbook. Signal groups at 1,000 member cap per zone, dedicated roles, mobile chasers, plate checkers, logging vehicle data into shared databases, 24/7 dispatch nodes, vectoring assets, salute-style reporting, size, activity, location, unit, time, equipment. In fact, that they had salute as an acronym in the Higbee thing that I showed you earlier. On suspected federal vehicles, daily chat rotations and time deletions to frustrate forensic recovery. Vetting processes for new joiners, mutual aid from sympathetic locals, teachers providing cover, possible police department tip-offs on license plate lookups, home base coordination points, rapid escalation from observation to physical obstruction or worse. This isn't spontaneous outrage. This is C2, command and control, with redundancy, OPSEC hygiene, and task organization that would make a SF team sergeant nod in recognition. Replace ICE agents with occupying coalition forces, and the structure maps almost 1-to-1. Two early-stage urban cells we hunted in the mid-2000s. The most sobering part? It's domestic. Funded, trained somewhere, and directed by people who live in the same country they're trying to paralyze law enforcement in. When your own citizens build and operate this level of parallel intelligence and rapid response network against federal officers, complete with doxing, vehicle pursuits, and harassment that's already turned lethal, you're no longer dealing with civil disobedience. You're facing a distributed resistance that's learned the lessons of successful insurgencies. Stay below the kinetic threshold most of the time. Force overreaction when possible. Maintain popular support through narrative, and never present a single center of gravity. I spent years training partner forces to dismantle exactly this kind of apparatus. Now pieces of it are standing up in American cities, enabled by elements of local government and civil society. That should keep every American awake at night. Not because I want escalation, but because history shows these things don't de-escalate on their own once the infrastructure exists and the cadre believe they're winning the information war. We either recognize what we're actually looking at or we pretend it's still just activism until the structures are hardened or spread. Your call, America. From where I sit, this isn't January 2026 politics anymore. It's phase one of something we spent decades trying to keep off our own soil. Remember, they had a few chats from like Oath Keepers and Proud Boys that they were trying to send people that weren't even at January 6th to jail for 20 plus years. A one-day event. And here we see this over and over. And it's not just Minneapolis. We see it occurring in cities all across the country. And meanwhile, hardly a peep from any Democrat. Show me one Democrat that's called this out. One. I've seen John Fetterman. That's about it. And then, to my chagrin, a worthless, not very intelligent lefty that doesn't have a big view. But last night, as I'm coming on, I see this just to see how even low level this gets. Here's Whick.
Look, I think that at this point in time, and yeah, I've been leaning towards this, but I've been like, maybe not. But no, I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna call it here. You have a moral obligation to obstruct ICE. You have a moral obligation as a Christian, as a U.S. citizen, as a patriot, to, if ICE comes to you and asks about someone, lie. Now recognize that you will get arrested. You will go to jail. But I think you still have the moral obligation to do so. That's my position.
Based. Honestly, based. I mean, dude, yeah, like,
Of course, I talked about him on the show last night. All about this. Here he is telling his audience to put their lives on the line. Now, what I had been saying is that this was the mentality of the left. I've been saying this for years. Now, what do you think? Let's say everyone takes his advice and all of these lefties go out and they now have a moral obligation to obstruct ICE. Do you think that inevitably will lead to a violent altercation with ICE at some point? We don't have to ask. Let's look at the Alex Preddy situation. Now, let's go back to what we just read. A Green Beret talking about these tactics. One of the things he says is, signal groups, database, deletions, vetting processes, mutual aid. Where's it at? Willingness to absorb casualties while bleeding the strong force slowly. Escalation from obstruction to obstruction, or worse. Stay below the kinetic threshold. Force overreaction when possible. Maintain support through narrative. The intent is to force the overreaction. That's the intent. This is exactly what I told you. I applaud Whick for being honest. I think it's grotesque what he's suggesting. And one of the things I always say to people like this that are suggesting that their audience go into harm's way, or in this case, break the law and get arrested. Convenient he's not doing it. Oh, trust him. He'll do it if it comes to his town. I wonder what town he lives in. If he lives in a city, I bet ICE has been there. Haven't seen him out there. He said, well, he said last night, and I'm sure my editor, Black Elk, will eventually clip the interaction. He said the reason he doesn't go to Minnesota is, quote, because it's cold. He's telling his audience to put their lives on the line and to get arrested. But he can't because it's cold. That was his claim. Now, do you see what I'm talking about, though? Do you see how this is going to make violence inevitable? Now, let's go back to the beginning of the show where I was talking about my exchange with Brittany and other people as well. Can we all agree that if this is, as this Green Beret is saying, as I've predicted, this is intentional escalation of people to intentionally obstruct and lead to confrontation with ICE, that inevitably it will lead to a violent confrontation. Can we all agree with that? Everybody agree? And if their plan, as this person said, this Green Beret and myself, is to then weaponize anytime that force occurs, particularly if there's an overreaction, that's over given enough time and enough interactions, almost a 100% chance of occurring, then you understand, if you agree with those two premises, that you're literally doing exactly what the left likes by hyper-focusing on actions of ICE. It is a flawless plan because they know so many people on the right can't help themselves. Or libertarians, like you see that, they can't help themselves. They'll say, oh, but we don't like the violent interactions. Time to pull back. And now you see why I'm so animated against that. I understand it, but you see why I say we need to harden our hearts. It is a 100% guaranteed to work strategy. Kick the dog over and over until the dog bites you, and then scream about the dog biting you, and everyone goes, that is a vicious dog. We got to do something about the dog. Even those that say you shouldn't kick would say, yes, but the dog. G Nice, do you believe that police have authority to arrest criminals? G Nice, do police, as a libertarian, do you believe that the police have the authority to arrest criminals? Is that an act of violence? If I go up and throw you to the ground and handcuff you, that's an act of violence. Would you acknowledge that an arrest and incarceration is in itself an act of violence, correct? Okay, why are you advocating for violence against Americans? I find that despicable. Does everybody see this? G. Nice just said, yes, police should be allowed to arrest Americans, and yes, that is violence. Why is he cheering for acts of violence against Americans? That's grotesque. I can't believe that I'm hearing a libertarian right now cheer for or call for acts of violence against American citizens. Absolutely despicable. One of the least libertarian and most immoral things that I've ever seen. An alleged libertarian that is right here on the show calling for acts of violence and justifying them against Americans. Absolutely gross. Absolutely gross. I took your take. I proved you're a hypocrite. You condemn other people that call for acts of violence against Americans while you yourself call for acts of violence against Americans. Grotesque. It's not crazy. It's not crazy at all. Remember, earlier I asked G Nice, so you want the border enforced? He said yes. And I said, but once the left starts using violence to push back, you'd like them to stop enforcing. He said yes. That's what he said. I can't believe it either. I can't believe that you are a fake libertarian that's cheering for acts of violence against Americans. Now, the real argument is what he wants to do is everything that I'm saying here, he wants to say, this is Rob saying he wants police to shoot unarmed people. That's what he wants. Now, he knows he's being a disingenuous sack of shit, that's not what I'm saying, but that's the implication he's trying to make. When I say, actually, when we have one group that's willing to set up things that will predictably lead to overreactions, and then you hyper-focus on the overreaction, that is inevitably giving that group the victory. He says, then that's you cheering for shooting unarmed people, which is nothing what I said. But if he claims that that's an act of violence, saying that these lefties should be dealt with, that that's an act of violence, then he himself justifies acts of violence. I no longer care what this, whatever ideology you want to call yourself, because I know some of my friends would claim to be libertarians and disagree with this take, but the people that are calling themselves libertarians with this cake, I just don't give a shit about. I guess, here's what I'll say. G Nice, let me ask you this. Should you be allowed to aggress upon me just for my thoughts and language? Should you be allowed to aggress upon me just for my political thoughts and language? For example, should you be allowed to aggress on me because I say, I think law enforcement should arrest left-wingers? Does that justify you as a third party aggressing upon me? There you go. No, it doesn't. Cool. Then what I'll say is, see you later. We no longer need you then. And just be mad about it and use your words. What I'll say is this then. I want to not back down from left-wing terrorists. And if you don't like that and you think that's an act of aggression, so what? Cry about it. Fuck you. That's my feeling on it. Don't be upset. We'll see you. That's my recommendation to these people. Okay, let them gnash their teeth and yell then. I don't give a shit. I'd like to not lose. When their argument is, you have to leave the left-wing violence occur over and over. Sorry, you just have to lose. That's the moral thing to do. I no longer care about their opinion. And he's already said it's not an act of aggression for me to not care about his opinion. So fuck him. Dispense with it. Let me give you the libertarian take of why you should use violent left-wingers to control what your legal system should be. No thanks. Opinion noted and dispensed with. See ya. No, I didn't see Adam Kahn get wrecked last night, but I'm happy to hear that occurred. Reading some updated news. Oh, here's some good news. Not really. Let's see where this goes, but this looks more like your man Trump backing down is what this like. Now, remember, my prediction was there's only two ways this ends. One is that the left wins, that Trump will try to save face, but he'll back down. Or second is that Trump doubles down, sends more ICE in, achieves more arrests, and aggressively goes after the people at high levels that are encouraging this violence. Here's what Trump said an hour ago. Governor Walz called me with a request to work together with respect to Minnesota. It was a good call, and we actually seem to be on the similar wavelength. I told Governor Walz that I would have Tom Homan call him, and that what we are looking for are any and all criminals that they have in their possession. The governor very respectfully understood that, and I'll be speaking to him in the near future. He was happy that Tom Homan was going to Minnesota, and so am I. We've had so much tremendous success in Washington, D.C., Memphis, Tennessee, and New Orleans, Louisiana, that virtually every other place we've touched, and even in Minnesota, crime is way down. But both Governor Walz and I want to make it better. There you go. Trump's not going to escalate. Nope. He's not going to escalate. He's going to back down and claim it's a victory. That's what he's going to do. And the left will know. If ICE is deployed in our streets, all we have to do is get violent. And eventually Trump will back down. That would be my guess. I hope I'm proven wrong. But my guess is that's what he'll say. Oh, Walz has promised now. They're going to cooperate more. If he escalates it, it'll look bad for midterms. I don't believe that. I actually believe escalation would be preferable. I don't think it would be bad for midterms. Midterms that may already be lost regardless of this. But I do know this with 100% certainty. The more that the left riots and gets their way, the more incentive they'll have to riot. So it won't just be the midterms. It'll be 2028. It'll be 2030, 2032, 2034, 2036. Inevitably, someone will have to stand up to them or the country is lost. And if it's not going to be Trump, if he's going to cave in because he thinks it's bad PR, and this is the point. And by the way, the reason that I predicted this, the real reason that I predicted that it would lead to a Trump back down is because people like Brittany and people like Elbows and the rest of the people on the left or on the right, people like that libertarian. He wants all criminals. No, he doesn't. So you think, okay, is it criminal to be in this country illegally? Jay Thorpe, is that the criminals that Trump wants as well? Do you really think that Tim Walz is about to send his agents out there to cooperate with deporting all illegals? Is that your claim? You think that's what's happening? It is backing down. Unforcigo says, I don't think it's caving. Isn't that the win condition? No. The win condition is you use violence and push back against us. Now we deport twice as many people. They didn't do what Texas did originally, and so now ICE gets sent there to do even more. Allowing them to chase ICE out to go back to the default position is a loss. It is weakness, and it will embolden every other state to do the same thing. They know eventually Trump will back down. It's weakness. My message, if I was Trump to Tim Walz, have been like, had a call with Tim Walz. I demanded that he start to cooperate with ICE in our efforts to deport every single illegal in the state. He said he would not do that, so I hung up the phone. We'll now be sending 4 times more ICE agents to Minnesota. That's how you beat back left-wing terrorism. It's the long game, all right. The long game of allowing the left to use violence to achieve their goals every time they want. Yep, they'll do it in every state. We'll see. We'll just see the riots spring up elsewhere now. And I was able to predict. And the reason I was able to predict that this would be the inevitable outcome was because of the big heart people. We don't have the stomach for it. We don't have the stomach for these deportations. We don't. Isn't it time to do a different way? The Dave Smiths. Can't we do it in a different way? Can't we? If the left's angry and wants to use violence, we should listen to them. Let's do it in a different way. Okay. And they're going to get their wish. They will. We will do it in a different, less effective way. If I'm proven wrong, I'd be ecstatic. Absolutely. Said that constantly. I've said where it looks like I predicted things with Trump and I was proved wrong and I was happy for it. I didn't think Trump would win the presidency. I was proven wrong about that. I was very happy. I sent message to Dave Smith. He did not respond to me. I sent it publicly. He didn't respond. It was underneath one of his posts where he was challenging Matt Walsh. I think it was the second most responded to comment under that post. Dave Smith did not respond to me. It's all right. You don't have to apologize. Just letting you know. I think I'm more than almost any streamer when I'm proven wrong. I'm happy to admit it. No, it is true. What Trump says is different. You think Tim Walz is going to cooperate all of a sudden? If Bondi, let's say that I agree, Bondi sucks. Bondi's Trump's fault. Bondi's made so many unforced errors at this point that I'm not willing to say, well, it's Bondi's fault. Bondi's fault is Trump's fault. So even if you 100% say it's Bondi's fault, that's Trump as far as I'm concerned. Of course, this will be a huge win for the Democrats. We got ICE out of here. We did it. The Democrats did it. Let's be honest. Trump's already been very weak on this. He just gave a quote the other day again saying, we're not talking about deporting all illegals, just the worst of the worst. There's so many good illegals here. And we talked about this previously, months ago, that's Trump's message. Now, when you look at the post, everyone in the post is saying, based, Trump win. Maybe this will come out and look like a victory for Trump. I don't think so. Someone get Trump on the show. I'd love to have him on the show. So we'll see. I don't know. But to me, that sounds like weakness. That's what it sounds like to me. There's in effect a low-level war going on. If one country says, hey, we want this from another country, and the other country says, no, and they go to war, and this side's crushing them, they don't say, but we're willing to negotiate from the point we started. We say, okay, now the line is moved. Now we want even more. Now, fine, we'll keep pushing. Not Trump, though. Oh, don't be quoting Colonel Troutman to me. Read some more super chats here. So Crates, $5 as your friendly Shaler neighbor here. What's up from Shaler? Sanctuary cities are dangerous. The shooting was unjustified. The pens are rolling. And how much snow did you get? About 20 inches. Max Reddick, $20, says the last year President Trump has been in office should tell you one important thing. The left doesn't actually care about insurrections as they're happening on a near daily basis. It's all manipulation and pearl clutching. Yep. J.W. Thorpe, what's up? $5 says the book Inhumans lays out all of this. What is happening? I would highly recommend it. Max Reddick, $5 says, in my opinion, from here on out, we should only refer to Whick as Peter Pettigrew, a little rat. Left-handed assassin, thanks so much for the $5. Gives a thumbs up. Tacit Tempo, $5 says, got some intel for you. I'm in some left-wing groups, and they're talking about joining ICE so they could disrupt as an insider. Don't know what to do with it. I've heard these claims as well. Makes sense. That's why they tried to kick out so many people that didn't want the vaccine, etc. in the military. They want to infiltrate and take over these organizations. Tacit Tempo, $5 says, the more illegals and rioters that are arrested, the less voters. Possibly Trump is putting up a front, though. He sometimes acts friendly with foes. Maybe. Vincent DeVici, I see, $5 says, please look up Bituation Room. Listen to her takes. Okay. Let me checking here. Meanwhile, a couple more things to say. Actually, from the great Jonathan Turley. After previously calling ICE Gestapo, Tim Walz just compared removals pursuant to federal law to capturing people and carrying out genocide. Quote, many of us grew up reading the story of Anne Frank. Somebody's going to write about that children's story about Minnesota. Walz recently again invoked the false bait boy story as he stoked the rage in his state about the 5-year-old that was apprehended. Walz is using this reckless rhetoric as signs appeared all over Minneapolis over the weekend calling for people to kill Nazis. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is currently marching to abolish ICE.
Behind them. Now. Abolish ICE! Abolish ICE! Abolish!
Nice, right? Here's Tom Foolery. You'll remember I debated him, and he talked about how he would use his Second Amendment right. used firearms to stop ICE if they were plainclothes and arresting someone, because they have to prove to him that they're legitimate first. And I got very pissed off and said, people will die. See? Alex Preddy obstructed ICE officers from beating up an old lady. They're real machismo. Here he says, when Charlie Kirk was shot, no mainstream Democrat defended it. But it's constantly Donald Trump and Republicans defending the state killing people on the left. Well, first off, Tom would have defended the state killing Ashley Babbitt. He would have just said that was worth it. Charlie Kirk, there's no case for that being legitimate whatsoever. And then he says, it's sad how many people have to give their lives, all because a bunch of folks don't want to seem woke by defending Americans. American values are the Constitution. Now, what I told Tom was people taking his advice and interfering and obstructing ICE would lead to people dying. Remember when I said that in my debate with him? And now that's what we've seen twice. Twice. Because people took advice like he was giving. Now 2 people dead. And he doesn't give a shit. He's like, that's shame. People, you got to do this. You see why I was so outraged when he was saying this shit? See the problem? You see why I get outraged when people like Whick are telling people to go break the law and obstruct ICE? Do you see? People die. Notice how they're very silent with the left-wing riots that you see on a nightly basis. They might say the odd word here or there, but it's because they support them. Here's part of the ICE training videos. This is from a guy, I think he worked for the Southern Poverty Law Center. Ready?
Take one more breath with me. Now lift your chin, because showing up is a form of love. Disciplined love in the form of power, and organized power is what makes intimidation fail. Thank you, States at the Core. Thank you, Gabe. Thank you, Jill.
Nice, right? Here's some more.
In through your nose, out through your mouth.
It is a cult.
Now listen, not to the noise, not to the spin, not to the comment sections. Listen to your body, that tightness in your chest, the heat behind your eyes, the tremble in your hands. That is not weakness. That is your conscience still working. When I say they, I am not speaking in code today. I mean the Trump administration's immigration enforcement apparatus, ICE, DHS, Border Patrol, and the political leadership directing and rewarding these tactics. We are here today because something has gone wrong, and it has gone wrong on purpose. In Minneapolis, in places you reside, in places you can name, and in places you cannot. And before I say anything else, I need to say this plainly. The people of Minneapolis are not the problem. The courage people have shown, the discipline people have practiced, the way neighbors, educators, organizers, and everyday folks have refused to look away, that is what leadership looks like. Renee Good should be alive. Alex Pretty should be alive. And the people who have died in DHS custody and at the hands of ICE and Border Patrol across the country should be alive. Let's tell the truth without flinching today. Federal immigration enforcement under this administration is not here to keep us safe. It is killing people, beating people, terrorizing families, breaking car windows in front of children, detaining human beings like disposable objects.
It's a cult. These are the people that say you're in a cult. The people that are going on their channel talking about it's time for you to go break the law, obstruct ICE. All right. Let's read a couple more super chats. Perry, what's up? Says, what? Anne Frank's diary was a diary, not a children's story? How stupid, Walz. $5, thanks. Tacit Temple for 5 says, there's so many traitors in America, I don't know what to do about it. Is there a reasonable win state? If we win politically, there's still millions of them. It's going to take decades. Vincent DaVici, $2 says, I'm going to have to nag here Francisca from her show. Okay. I'm never going to see eye to eye with that dude, he says, for $2. Now listen, we're probably going to end the show. Maybe I'll stream tonight. I'm not sure. We'll see what's going on. I don't know. What I will ask is, I've been trying to put in the time. I've been trying to bring unique content. This Thursday, I'll be doing another no prep debate. Trying to take like left wingers, dealing with them. Probably streamed in the past 2.5 days. Close to 20 hours. So if you wouldn't mind sending a super chat or two if you can, it'd be nice to at least get to the 357 marker that we used to shoot for. I know I got a little ambitious with the $1,000 marker. But any super chats people had before we go would be much appreciated. If not, that's okay too. We'll see where we go from here. I'll admit to being a little doomer-pilled when I say that Trump's statement about Tim Walz seems to reek of a potential capitulation, but maybe not. Flowing Class, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. $50. Really appreciate it. User, thanks so much for the $5. It's for the grift. Thank you. It was very generous. My audience is very generous. Chris, thanks so much. $20 says, hey, Rob, take a break and relax. I am going. I'm going to go enjoy some time with my family here. $1 million a day is unreasonable. That's true. Buffalo identifies as a donor, therefore he is. Yeah, we talked about the signal chat, you know. Yes, I agree with you. I think silver's going to go way up as well. I agree. Now, from the people that I was talking to, like Brittany from earlier, I want to be clear. I'm not going to apologize for my tone, etc., but I do want to be clear. Even though I think that some people are weak and will lead to negative outcomes, it's not to speak to them as saying that they're intentionally causing bad things or I wish poor things to occur to them. But I do sincerely believe that that mentality is what encourages the left to continue to escalate and become more and more violent. I do. AJC, $20 for day shift. Thank you. Marky Mark, $5 says, doing great, Rob. Keep it up. Thank you. I also have to untime out that G nice guy. Let me see. How do I do that? Oh. Excuse me. Here we go. JW Thorpe, thanks so much. $20 says, wanted to drop another dono. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And then GG, $5 says, I love the gold. Not financial value, so I love gold. We're very close. Destiny's covering my conversation with Pisco and Whick now. Funny. Literally could be a RICO standard or a RICO case that will be built because there are people actively instructing people on how to obstruct ICE, something that you're recommending. You're also saying
conservatives are the biggest soys in the world.
Yeah, when it comes to their shit, they sway the fuck out.
Here we go. So, just to be clear, Destiny, who screamed insurrection for years and years and years, that says that he had to spurg out after the assassination attempt of Trump and say that the worst possible thing could happen was that bullet not hitting Trump, that said that people like Corey Compatore were fucking around and finding out, that said that if his own mom was at a Trump rally and got shot, he would say the same thing, that is hyperventilated about January 6th and wanting to arrest the people like the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, etc. that were in documents. Now they say, oh, you're soying out. Oh, you're soying out. When I'm like, you're literally telling people to break the law. As we see based on his definition, insurrections that are going on. And they're like, soying out when you're saying, you're literally telling people to obstruct and break the law. Screaming at them, shouting at them, honking at them, and you would even go as far as Freddie and other people that at times, depending on the situation, you would prevent them from arresting people, shows that you were willing to use what would be tantamount to intimidation. You can't put your hands on ICE, you can't prevent them from arresting people. That is not your place. And to recommend to your audience while you're not doing it that they do that makes situations like what just happened yesterday more likely to occur. And it is despicable. I think it's one of the worst things that streamers could do is to tell people to give them advice to either break the law or to put themselves in harm's way. I find it disgusting, and I hope that you change your tack and tell your audience that that's an absurd thing and that you apologize for suggesting it.
Wait, before you answer, I just want to make sure that I understand. It could be, I'm just telling you, when I heard you say that, when you said, and you will be arrested, it sounded like you were advocating for doing something that would constitute breaking the law. But as I'm hearing you describe the conduct, all this stuff seems like it's legally protected. Recording.
Yeah, but keep in mind, even though it's legal protected,
you can still be arrested. Yes, no, that's what I'm
still arrest you. And like, for example, in what was it, Metropolis Blitz operation in Chicago, where they brought in, I think 15 cases have gone through and been settled.
For what you're saying,
country is saving of the country. So they.
What do you mean if they're not?
And the fact that like
way to interpret what you're saying, or what you're basically saying is it's your duty to do these things.
Thought of the fact that like he who saves his country violates no laws.
What do you mean if they're not?
And what Whick is advocating for is saving of the country, so they couldn't violate a law here.
Well, I mean, I don't know what you're saying exactly. What do you mean?
As a meme.
Oh, no, I got it. Okay, never mind, I got it. Is there? How do conservatives contend with that? Did they just say Trump was trolling when he said that, or?
Probably. I haven't seen him say anything about
like,
it.
That's a crazy. I don't know. Yeah, nobody cares about it. It's all just a joke, I guess. Yeah.
I see Destiny's commentary very good, right? When he doesn't get to hyperventilate and sort of crash out, say that all Republicans deserve to fear for their life when they go in public. Not that effective. Just him and a buddy playing a video game as they watch someone else stream. But I'm not surprised that a person like Destiny, who said the worst thing that could happen was that bullet not hitting Trump, would seemingly take the side of someone who's actively telling his audience to break the law. Not surprised. I'm very interested in the fact that Destiny's top mod, according to him, called in and talked to me in the show last night. What was the quote, Ben Swanson? Give me the exact quote. Give me the quote. Go ahead, Ben Swanson. What was the quote? I'm lying. Did he say Republicans or conservatives? I can't remember the word. Should fear for their lives to go in public. And he's going to say, yeah, but it was the context. He said that, but it was the context. That's what it was. It's the context of it. Yes, I understand. You're going to defend that rhetoric and say, oh, actually, he just means because they use violent rhetoric and because their leader uses violent rhetoric. See if I can find the exact quote. You need conservatives to be afraid when they go to an event, so they look to their leadership and turn down the temperature. There's the quote. No, not having the specific words is irrelevant. That they should live in fear when they go out into public. Yes. Republicans should be afraid. I said Republicans are conservatives. And his actual quote was, you need conservatives to be afraid when they go to events. So they look to their leaders to turn down the temperature. He said this after Charlie Kirk's. Is your argument going to be he didn't say in public, he just said events? Is that your argument? Is that really where you're going to hang your hat? Show me. Did Charlie Kirk's, so he's talking about this in the context of Charlie Kirk being killed. So is your suggestion that all Republicans going to events, they're always calling for violence? Because he didn't say, at Republican events where they call for violence. That's not what he said. He says you need the conservatives to be afraid of being killed when they go to events. So your argument is all of their events are calling for violence, and so you need them to be afraid to be killed. Here, I'll play the audio. Here's what he's defending.
Need conservatives to be afraid of getting killed when they go to events so that they look to their leadership to turn down the temperature. The issue is right now, they don't feel like there's any fear. Like, I don't know. It's like memes. It's just memes to everybody, I guess. I don't know, bro. I don't know. I don't care.
Now, would the same be true from Destiny's perspective, for example, when they call ICE Nazis? Does that mean Democrats then should fear for their lives? We need Democrats to fear for their lives when they go to events? When people like Chuck Schumer said Kavanaugh will reap the whirlwind, does that mean that we need Democrats to fear for their lives? By the way, this is Destiny and his buddy, whoever he was there, saying that I'm being like soy or something like that. Here they are, crashing out. Here's Destiny crashing out. Republicans need to fear for their lives when they go to events. Fear that they'll be killed. I did a whole episode and all the fucked up shit Destiny said like this. Let's see if I can find the thread. Here he is talking about J.D. Vance. This is after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Ready? Here's what he said.
Kirk show. Of hosting the Charlie Kirk show. Please join me as I pay tribute to my friend. I would never. I can't even say this joke, I think, because I will get FBI'd. What? Do you, like, if the. I never. No violence. Never. Fuck, I can't even make the joke. Wait, hold on. I'm typing this in DGG. This is a good joke. Hold on, let me torch over. That's way too edgy, right? I think that's way too...
150 yards is how far they say Charlie Kirk was shot. Who says I'm not getting as many donos now? I made $2,000 and something odd dollars 2 nights ago, around $1,000 yesterday. I'm consistently amongst the top super chatted channel in the country. The only reason my donos were down this month was because I spent about 9 days not streaming because I was actually traveling, doing events. I'm not losing. You see? You know, yeah, you're asking for donos, so ha. So, Destiny said pretty much what I said he said. He said events instead of public. So, we see Ben Spurg out. Now he's resorted to be like, oh, I don't think you get as many donos as you used to. By the way, thanks so much for the more donos. Flowing Glass, $10 says, had to break 350. Thanks again. Thank you. We're only $1 away. 14 cents actually from 357. Let me see. Here he is after he went on and on about insurrections, being forced to admit that the ICE protests, the old ones, this is, when did I type this? So this is from way back in June, that these were insurrections. Here you go.
Falls apart. What's the line to you between inconveniencing ICE and insurrection, like you said earlier? I think that if you are inconveniencing ICE in LA, I would have to go back and check, but I feel like you probably have hit all of the definitional parts of like engaging in insurrection. But I mean, I said it for J6, and I'll say it for this now. Like insurrection definitionally can't be a bad thing. The country was birthed in insurrection and rebellion, right? The question is whether or not the insurrection you feel is justified. For a J6, I said if the election actually had been stolen, I mean, it makes sense why people would insurrect. I mean, if there was ever a reason to insurrect, it would be because somebody's stealing the fucking election.
Yeah. Now he's saying, actually, yeah, sure, this is an insurrection, but not all insurrections are bad. He said vile things about Devin Nunes. He's talked about wanting people like me censored from online. He said that the violence was base, that we saw Black Lives Matter violence that was going on at the time. He said violence is the other side of the coin to rioting. So my question is, if I should fear for my life to go to Republican events because of fears for violence, should people like Ben fear for their lives to go to Destiny events? Would you agree that that we need to teach you all because of the violent rhetoric? Would you agree with that? Or is it different with you guys? When you're supporting a guy that's having political events that is outright calling for violence, said the worst thing could happen was that bullet missing Trump, including calling for violence after we saw assassinations. Is it different? You wouldn't like it if you and your family feared for their lives because they're being attacked like people like Corey Compatore or Charlie Kirk. You wouldn't like that, right? That'd be different. Right, Ben? Huh. Go says, is there a way you can make donations without personal bank or credit card or APP? I don't know, man. The only thing I know is you can send through PayPal at robnoerr or Cash App at $robnoerr. But I won't be able to see your bank information with all that stuff, but those apps probably do require it. Ben pretty silent now. I hope no one banned him. Pretty silent now, huh, Ben? There's the guy he supports. The guy, by the way, when I'm like, hey, because of the mean words Trump said, he has to crash out and say all that shit, right? But then says that I'm like clutching at pearls or whatever him and his buddy there said. when I'm saying I think it's absurd that people like Whick are telling people to break the law online. All right. 10 go. $5 says getting to stay home today because of ice in Tennessee. Keep up the good work, not one step back. Lowercase ice, not capital ice. And free from puking, $5 says I got you, not one step back. Thank you. Ben has his fingers in his cheating. All right. Any more super chats? If not, we're going to raid Jim Bob, who I believe is alive. Now, I may be doing the extravaganza today over on the Crucibles Rumbles channel. I don't know. I have to see what the deal is with that. But at some point, I will be doing that coming up shortly. Whether that's today or later in the week, I'm not sure. But don't call for violence. Don't call for people breaking the law. That doesn't seem to be too ridiculous. Don't give in to left-wing terrorists that are upset because they lost an election and think that you get to use violence and intimidation. Don't fall for them when they want you to say, but you have to hyper-focus on when we create violent conflict situations over and over if something gets out of hand. Far from puking, not free from puking, sorry. Like I said, we're going to raid over to Jim Bob. Last super chat of the day goes far from puking. Anyone else? Anyone? Gonna think we're almost $400. Almost there. I may be back at 10 o'clock tonight. I'm not sure. So just stay tuned. Maybe I'll be back. Maybe not. Thank you all so much. Remember, the memory of Charlie Kirk. As we're talking about Destiny there. Now he's assassinated and people mocked him, mocked his wife. And we're seeing the fruits of it play out as we see the left engage in more and more violence. Say a prayer for all of these ICE officers and a prayer even for the people that are putting themselves in violent confrontations against ICE. I don't want to see them harmed either. But it's time to harden our hearts and say that we cannot give in to this left-wing terrorism because they don't want ICE to enforce immigration laws. Say a prayer for all these people in the family of Charlie Kirk. I will see you all probably at 10 o'clock tonight, though I'm not certain. Thank you so much, everyone. As always, have a good one.
Only in America is it possible to say, you know what, I don't like the way the country is going, and to do something about it. Take that risk. Take that leap of faith. Stay involved, trust God, and act obediently. Romans 12:2 verse. That God will use all things, for good for those who love him. It's bigger than you. I want you to remember that. It is bigger than you. It's bigger than me. You are here to make somebody else's life better, the pursuit of liberty and freedom. You know what gives me strength? The hundreds of thousands of you that say, Charlie, keep going.
1 Corinthians 5 and 15. So that's all pretty amazing evidence, not just intra-biblical evidence, but extra-biblical evidence that Jesus Christ was a real person. He lived a perfect life. He was crucified, died, and rose on the third day, and he is Lord and God of all.